Hi there, this is Michaela Wilson, and here is my COVID-19 analysis. Here's 3 questions that will be addressed. 1. What states have the most cases? How many each day? Of those cases, how many were confirmed or deaths? And what other states will continue to have an outbreak based on cases? The second question is how many cases each day from a cruise ship? How many cases overall are from a cruise ship? And is there any correspondence between cruise ship and death and confirmed cases? And the last question is which states do not have a huge outbreak? How many confirmed cases each day? And how many deaths and overall confirmed cases? To answer the first question that will be addressed, we will first look at this graph. This graph shows the top 10 states that have the most cases in the United States. So, what states will have the most cases? New York City has the highest confirmed cases and the highest death rate. They have a confirmed case at 6,712,000 and a death rate of 470,000. Next is New Jersey. They have 2 million cases and 104,000 deaths. Now, the state that is at the bottom of the top 10 is Texas, and they are at 509,000 cases and about 12,000 deaths. Now, the next question is how many of these are from each day? So the positive cases each day for the top 10 states is here. We see that throughout all the states, they start to increase all about at the same time except for New York. New York seems to take a spike a little earlier than the rest of the states. They started about the 15th and increased. Just kept increasing and increasing. And then they seen a little dip here, and then they increased some more, and then they seen a really decent sized dip, and then they increased and then dipped again. Now, Texas, they really didn't get a really big increase in cases until about the end of March. But theirs didn't hit as high as New York City. And Texas has a higher population count than New York. And the other state that has the highest population count is California. Now, California doesn't see a very huge spike until the beginning of April, end of March. So maybe population doesn't play a role in the spreading of coronavirus, and maybe it depends on how their governors reacted. Maybe California was on a lockdown faster than New York, or maybe New York's PPEs wasn't where California is. We really don't know. But based on the data we have, New York is where this virus is spreading the most. Now we will look at what other states will continue to have an outbreak based on their cases. Here I have grouped together the top 3 states that have the most cases overall. And these 3 is New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. Now we can see that out of all 3 of those states, New York has the highest population count. So it's a given that their case numbers will be high. Now out of their population count, they have 7,183,000 cases overall. They had 25 million that were tested, and out of those, they only had 2 million that was hospitalized. For Massachusetts, they have a population count of 1 billion, and out of that 1 billion, they had 7 million that was tested and 1 million cases overall, and 156,000 that were hospitalized. For New Jersey, their population count was 1 billion, and out of that billion, they had 7 million that were tested, 2 million cases overall, and 237,000 that was hospitalized. So, with that being said, population count really doesn't play a factor in the spreading of the coronavirus. We've had restrictions put into play for about 1 month. And if you look at New York now, it's a ghost town. So if they have so many people, why is there not so many cases? Is there not enough testing? Or if they do have the testing, are people not taking advantage of it? But based on those numbers, population count does not play a factor in the spreading of the coronavirus. Because with 5 billion people, you would have at least, I would say, close to a billion cases with how busy New York City is. Now that we have population count into play and of how many of cases that we have for each one, now let's look at how many they have that were positive for each day. Now we see that New York City has kind of been on a roller coaster for their cases. They go up and then it kind of tries to mellow out, and then it goes up again, and then we go down, and then we go up, and so on and so on. But if you look at New York, they didn't start really getting a really big spike in their cases until the 15th. After the 15th, it just took off. And for Massachusetts, it didn't take off until about the middle of March. And that goes for the same for New Jersey. You would think, since New Jersey and Massachusetts are kind of close in population, that if population was a key role in the spreading of the coronavirus, that their graphs will be kind of similar in a way, but they're not. So I don't think population plays a key role in the spreading of the coronavirus. Now, based on these, do I think that these states will continue to have outbreaks? Yes. Because you can kind of see trends. It goes up and then down and then up and then down and then up. And then it goes down and it'll go up. And I think it'll go down a little bit. Then it'll go up a hair, go back down a hair. For Massachusetts and New Jersey, I think it will increase, but it'll be more of a steadier pattern. Now, we'll look at how many confirmed and death cases we have for these top 3 states. In April, for New York, we had 228,000 confirmed cases. And in March, we had 75,000 confirmed in deaths. For April, we had 20,000. And then for March, we had 3,000. For New Jersey in April, we had 99,000 confirmed. And in March, we had 18,000. For the deaths in April, we had 6,900. And for the deaths in March, we had 267. So in March, it seems like we didn't have nearly as many deaths. And for Massachusetts, in April, we have 55,000. And we have 66,000 in March for the confirmed. And then for the deaths in April, we had 3,400. And in March, we had 89. So maybe the death rates in April increased because people weren't getting tested, or they got tested too late, or maybe they were tested and were in the hospital for a very long time and eventually passed. So their count went to April. Now we're moving on to the second question, and it is how many cases each day came from a cruise ship. Now, we can see that there was only 54,000 cases that came from people being on a cruise ship. So that's 750 positive cases a day. Now, do I think that started the snowball for the coronavirus in the United States? Yes and no. No, because the people that did have it, they were quarantined for that 2 weeks, and they were able to be released. And then again, the ones that were released, who's to say they didn't get the virus again for the second time and spread it that way? Is there a correspondence between the cruise ship and the confirmed and death cases? We see for the death cases, there really isn't a correspondence between the two, because there was only 16 deaths from the ones that were on the cruise ship. Now, the confirmed cases that were on the cruise ship, there's a little bit of a correspondence. So the highest confirmed cases that came from the cruise ship was 734, and it stopped the 1st of April. Until the beginning of February, it didn't spike. And then once it did spike, it just took off. So, I think there is a correspondence between the cruise ship and the confirmed cases, because maybe the ones that were on the ship that did have a confirmed case, once they were cleared off the ship, I think they had the COVID-19 again the second time around, because they say some people are carriers. Okay, now the last question is, we're going to look at the states that have less than 10,000 cases. Now, when we look at the states that are in the U.S., we see that they are surrounded by huge bodies of water, like Guam. Guam, nothing but water. Same thing for the Northern Mariana Islands, nothing but water. And look how many cases they've had each day, 16 and 150. Does it not like the water? Look at the American Samoa, 0, and their population is 11 million. Did they put a travel ban on? I mean, what precautions did they take that we did not do? Also for the Virgin Islands, even the Virgin Islands, 70 a day, and their population is 21 million. But we have one that is connected on one side to the United States, and that's Alaska. Alaska has 146 million, and their cases is 9,000. Now, at first I thought maybe it's the weather. These islands are hot and humid. Maybe you don't like it. But when you think of Alaska, Alaska's cold. So it can't be the weather. Is it the bodies of water? Now we'll look at the cases for each day. Each day, highest is 28, and that's Alaska. And that didn't hit until the end of March. These other cases spiked within the second week of March. The highest Guam got was 19, and that was in April 5th. And the American Samoa has 0. Virgin Islands highest is 10. What is this coronavirus thriving off of? If it's not population and it's not weather, what is it? The last graph we're going to look at is the confirmed and deaths within these. And we see that the deaths is very low. The highest is 6. That's Alaska in April. We had no deaths across the whole board in January and February, and in March we had no more than 3, and that was in Alaska. American Samoa had 0, but they had 0 cases. In the Northern Marinas, they had 12 cases. 12 in April. And the Virgin Islands had 30 in March. So what really is this virus thriving off of?